Joining us now, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Secretary, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you. Nice to be back with you.
Let's start with reaction to the president's $6 trillion budget proposal. The AP says it comes out under this infrastructure, says this year's projected deficit would set a new record $3.7 trillion. The national debt will soon breach $30 trillion. As a result, the government must borrow roughly 50 cents of every dollar it spends this year and next. Even a member of the Obama and Biden administration, Larry Summers, who was the director of the National Economic Council, has a warning. It starts off this way. We are printing money. We are creating government bonds. We are borrowing on an unprecedented scales. He goes on to say that the dollar is at risk. Inflation is now potentially going to skyrocket. Is Larry Summers wrong, Mr. Secretary?
This is a responsible budget, and importantly, all of the proposals for spending and investment in this budget are paid for. It's one of the reasons why, if you look into the out years, the deficit actually starts going down. But you can't get something for nothing. And in the near term, we know that we need to make major investments in our roads and bridges, in our education, in our health. We can't afford not to do these things because for decades, frankly, we've been disinvesting. We've been cutting in the things that make America strong. The president is looking around the world, seeing how other countries are not hesitating to invest in their future, and we're watching America fall behind. Just look at infrastructure. We're not even in the top 10 anymore, and we can't allow that to continue. So yes, this is a bold budget with major investments in the American people, but it's also a responsible one because the president has put forward how to pay for every penny of it in the long term.
What about the critics who say, all right, the payment plans that we're talking about, the things we're going to invest in are over an 8-year window, but paying for it extends actually over a 15-year window. So people are going to be paying for it long after President Biden is president.
Well, that's part of responsible budgeting. You make sure you create permanent revenue even when you're proposing temporary spending. What we know is we need to make a lot of these investments up front, and in the same way that a responsible business or family might take out a longer-term loan in order to fund an immediate home improvement or investment in a business, America needs to make sure we're investing in the roads and bridges. We can't say, well, 15 years from now we're going to get around to that, or 20 years from now maybe we'll start doing something to build up our education and make sure that Americans can go to community college free of charge. We've got to do these kinds of things right away so that we can collect the benefits of that in our lives, not just in dollars and cents terms, in the years to come. But again, all you've got to do to pay for this is for corporations and wealthy Americans to pay their fair share. Not a crazy high tax level, not even as high as the tax levels have been for most of my life. We're talking about resetting the corporate tax rate to what it was under George W. Bush. If we do these kinds of things, it's paid for over the long run, and we can start enjoying the benefits as a country right away.
Even President Obama warned about raising the corporate tax rate. In his 2015 economic report, he said this: all else equal, a higher effective marginal rate for businesses will tend to reduce the level of investment, and a lower effective marginal rate will tend to encourage additional projects and a larger capital stock. Increases in the capital available for each worker's use boost productivity, wages, and output. He had caution as well about doing that.
Well, the very first words in those comments were all else equal, and unfortunately, all else is not equal right now. A lot of companies don't pay the so-called sticker rate. Matter of fact, we had many corporations recently make billions of dollars in profits and pay zero in taxes. And the American people know that that doesn't make sense, and I think it's one of the reasons why among Americans there's remarkable bipartisan support for the tax policies of this administration. Republicans, independents, and Democrats see that a lot of corporations aren't paying their fair share when small businesses and families are. And so when we're talking about how to fund infrastructure investments or how to pay for the president's budget, we believe that the time has come for everybody to be paying their fair share. And again, not a high rate. I mean, most of my lifetime, the corporate tax rate's been 35. We're saying it ought to be 28, so lower than it's been most of our lifetime, but enough to get the job done so that we can get deficits under control and, most importantly, make the investments that are going to be required for America to thrive.
You talk about everyone paying their fair share. It's a popular talking point. The president has talked many times about the fact that he doesn't want to raise taxes, and he won't on people who are making less than $400,000 a year. But even the New York Times, pouring through the budget proposal, says that's not actually true. Jim Tankersley writing this, he says the documents forecast that Mr. Biden and Congress will allow tax cuts for low and middle income Americans signed into law by President Donald J. Trump in 2017 to expire as scheduled in 2025. So doesn't that practically actually translate into a real world tax hike for people?
Well, that's a forecast and a set of assumptions about something that is years away, and we'll see what the policy choices are at that time. But right now, in this moment, we have a decision to make. What are we going to do with tax rates right now? And the president is saying, let's not charge middle-class Americans more. Middle-class Americans are paying enough right now, in the president's view. Let's make sure that corporations and the wealthy are paying their fair share. And we believe that's going to raise the kind of revenue that we need in order to fund the proposals that the president's put forward. Again, you look at something like the American Jobs Plan, the infrastructure vision that the president's put out. The entire thing is paid for across 15 years. By year 16, deficit's going down, and he does it without asking one penny from the middle class.
But if this budget proposal, the $6 trillion budget proposal, which encompasses those things, actually lets those tax rates expire, that tax cut expire, and it's premised on that being part of the funding for this plan, doesn't it equate to a tax hike on people making less than $400,000 a year?
You know, I feel like there are some politicians hoping to have a hypothetical debate about decisions Congress will make in 2025 to get out of the real debate we're having in 2021 about what tax policy ought to be right now. The president is saying that we've got to make sure corporations and the wealthy pay their fair share. The American people agree with him, and we think it's time to get that done.
So negotiations continue this morning on the infrastructure package, but one of the biggest items is $400 billion for home health care or long-term care. NPR describes it this way. It says services can include home visits from nurses or occupational therapists, assistance with personal care such as eating or bathing, help from case managers, attendance at adult daycare centers, help with cooking, cleaning, and other chores, transportation, and home repairs and modification. Mr. Secretary, those are all good things. We all think those are laudable goals, but they don't line up with probably the definition of infrastructure that most average Americans would think of.
Look, if you have a different category you'd like to put it in, that's fine. We should still do it, and we should do it as part of the American Jobs Plan. We think of it as infrastructure because infrastructure is the foundation that lets people participate in the economy. And as so many people watching this program know, when you're taking care of a loved one, doing some of those things because you don't have the right kind of care structure to look after them, and you can't even get a job because you're in this elder care situation, because somehow we're one of the only developed countries that doesn't take care of this, that's holding you back the same way it holds you back if you don't have a road or bridge to get to where you want to go. But look, if somebody has a different view on the categories, that's fine. That's a philosophical debate that I don't think is as important as the fundamental fact that doing this is good policy,
but that's not roads and bridges. I mean, that's something that people would think
do it now.
It is a good thing, but it doesn't meet with what average people think of ports, even water, lead pipes, repairing those things. There's a lot of agreement between Democrats and Republicans on those things. But where do you actually draw the line? What's not infrastructure?
This is called the American Jobs Plan because it contains a number of measures that are going to help Americans not only get jobs but thrive in our country today. And this is part of it. We think these things fit together. And of course, it's not unusual in legislation to take a number of different elements that are part of a related theme and move them at the same time, because Americans can't wait for us to resolve a dorm room debate over which policies belong in which categories. They want us to just get it done. It's why the president's jobs plan is so overwhelmingly popular among the American people. Now we're trying to get Washington to catch up and to actually do something.
Well, when you start to poll them about how to pay for it and what actually infrastructure means, those numbers change. We're going to discuss that coming up. Secretary Buttigieg, thank you for your time. Thanks for coming in today. Always great to talk with you.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.